Social comparison, and specifically upward social comparison, is the worst thing ever. It can absolutely destroy you internally. It absolutely destroyed me internally. Leon Festinger, who was a social psychologist, he explained that social comparison is used to evaluate ourselves in various criteria. We'll basically pick something, look at how others are doing in that thing that we picked, and compare. Other people basically give us a benchmark. And upward social comparison is, like the name implies, is comparing ourselves to people who are doing better than us in that given thing. What is so awful about social comparison, at least in my experience, is that we'll make comparisons to others on a given thing, and we'll do so in isolation to everything else about that person, about their lives, their environment, everything. Let me give you an example from during my time in university. As a male, it's no secret that there is this underlying pressure to hook up a lot and to hook up with a lot of different girls. Sexual pressure and sexual frustration and all that will be the subject of a whole other video coming down the line in this video series. But the reason that I brought it up is because this is such a prime example from my life and quite possibly from the lives of many males, where social comparison has these negative effects mentally. I would hear about someone who had slept with X number of girls, and if it was a considerably higher number than me, I would get insecure and feel shitty about myself and feel like I wasn't good enough, and I would feel unattractive and unworthy, and basically this snowball effect of negative feelings would ensue, and all from hearing about one person's number. And again, this social comparison would happen in complete isolation to everything else about that person. Now, of course, sexual insecurities stem from a lot of different things. Like my negative reactions regarding sex were, of course, more complicated than just simply social comparison. But the point that I want to make is that social comparison itself is arguably one of the best enablers for making someone feel shitty about themselves. Other examples from my life and probably from yours would be comparing GPAs, amount of times on average going out during a given week, things like number of likes and comments on social media posts, just the typical stuff that one would compare themselves on with others while in university. So coming back to Leon Festinger, he made this really powerful argument that social comparison can really stem from situations where objective standards are not so readily available. So for example, with the number of people that someone has slept with, there really is no objective standard for number of people that you should have slept with by certain points in your life. Like, there isn't. And that's the whole idea right there. People always want to know how they stack up. And when objective standards aren't to be found, they look to the next thing. They look to the performance of others to see how they stack up. Now, check this out. Even in such a structured place and lifestyle like university, even there, it can be hard to truly pinpoint actual objective standards. Like I said, no real objective standard on number of people to have slept with. Also, no real objective standard on how much to party. Same goes even with grades. While it is true that an A is considered above average and a B is average and so on, there really is no, when you really think about it, there really is no actual objective standard for what grades everybody should be getting at different stages throughout university. There really isn't. And so we turn to others and we compare. Okay, now check this out. Outside of university, holy shit, do the objective standards drop even more. I mean, what's the objective standard for the type of salary that you should be making by a certain point? What's the objective standard for when you should have moved out of mom and dad's place? What's the objective standard for when you should stop going out and partying as much? What's the objective standard for when you should be in a committed relationship that has real future implications? What's the objective standard for when you and your partner should move in together? For when you should get married, have kids, start contributing to an RSP, placing a down payment on a house? All these things. What's the objective standard? There really aren't any. Now, of course, there are some standards that are more set in place than others. That's true. But again, the theme for this video is that standards, more often than not, are not as objective. And so, we compare. Like I said at the beginning, I would compare myself to someone on a given thing and would do so in complete isolation from everything else happening in my life and from everything else happening in their life. This is so dangerous because it just sets you up for feeling bad about yourself. Of course, it's usually always more complicated than just, oh, that person is doing better than me in this, so they must be better than me and I must not be good enough. No, the reality is that there are so many other factors that come into play, and something that I've been working on and am still working on is just doing my best to consider other factors that can come into play. I'm also just like straight up, I'm just doing my best to lower the amount of social comparison that I engage in. Because yeah, it's just a lose-lose situation. Social comparison, it just sets you up for disappointment. The type of social comparison that hits the most is when the comparisons reflect your deeper insecurities. We make these type of comparisons from a place of fear and from vulnerability, and a big thing that comes from social comparison is this thing that's actually going to be the topic of the next video, arbitrary deadlines. Social comparison on things that don't have objective standards and that come from a place of fear and vulnerability paved the way for subsequently setting expectations and deadlines that themselves don't really have objective standards. And these are called arbitrary deadlines, and they too are the worst in how they can mentally affect you. More on that in the next video. So yeah, social comparison sucks, and it fucks with you. And especially social comparison with your friends, that's the worst. I hate admitting to myself that there have been many times when I've just been resentful of some of my friends, of some of my closest friends. Like putting on a smile, but just resentful and just only focusing on that one thing and comparing myself in complete isolation to other things. And it's just the worst. And social comparison has just fucked with me so much, especially right after university, and the world just opens at your feet and you don't know what's going on, and you just compare, and it's the worst. It's so fucking draining. It has exhausted me. And it was the same formula every time. I would feel insecure about something, then compare myself to someone who is doing better than me at that thing. And then I would criticize myself and beat myself up and probably end up with feelings of resentment towards that person. And then the cycle would just repeat. Social comparison really played such a huge factor in me becoming depressed. It really did a number on me.